The Pontchartrain Park Pioneers Oral History Project is presented by the Center for African and African American Studies at Southern University at New Orleans and the following sponsors. The National Park Service, the United States Department of the Interior through the Louisiana Department of Culture, Recreation, and Tourism, the Louisiana Office of Cultural Development, and the Division of Historic Preservation. My name is Dr. Clyde Robertson. I'm the Director for the Center for African and African American Studies at Southern University at New Orleans. I am also the Director, co-researcher, and co-interviewer for the Pontchartrain Park Pioneers Oral History Project. This oral history project examines the lives and experiences of the original homeowners and residents of Pontchartrain Park. The Pontchartrain Park Pioneers Oral History Project's team consists of Connie Abdel Salam, Assistant Professor of History at Southern University at New Orleans, Dr. Mike Mahan, Director of Satellite Communications at Southern University at New Orleans, Ms. Frances Helena, Senior Psychology Major, Southern University at New Orleans. Today's interview is taking place in the Millie Charles College of Social Work building. Today's date is June 20th, 2019, and the time is 4:25. Please tell me your name and your birthday.
Elvira de Henry, September 22nd, 1936.
Where were you born, Mrs. Henry?
In New Orleans.
And what part of New Orleans were you born and raised?
Lower Ninth Ward.
Were you in the military?
No.
Was Mr. Henry in the military?
No.
Where did you meet Mr. Henry?
At Xavier University.
And what year?
1956. We graduated in 1958.
Now, when you were in the Lower Ninth Ward, what high school did you attend?
Clark, Joseph S. Clark High School.
And elementary school?
McCarty.
And you are a graduate of Xavier University. When you and Mr. Henry were married, what year was it?
1958.
And where did you live?
We lived in the 7th Ward then, on Allen Street.
How did you hear about owning a house in Pontchartrain Park?
Well, my husband had a drugstore in the Lower 9, and Dr. Carter, he was a doctor in that area, he told him about the house that was built lately. Well, my brother-in-law, in the meantime, they had moved out here in early '56, I think, and we saw the progress of the area, and we were looking for established community that, you know, we could raise our children in. So he told us about the square that had just opened that Dr. Carter had a home on, and he said it was from the Archdiocese, and once integration came about, they sold that square that was designated for a Black Catholic church. And so everyone had to go to St. Gabriel Catholic Church. So that square was up. So Rudy Barnes and Teddy Moshe bought the square, and they subdivided it and built homes. But we didn't like the homes that they were building, so we made him an offer that he couldn't refuse to buy a lot, one of the lots, and that's how we got the lot.
And what year was that?
1969.
Now, you mentioned that Mr. Henry had a drugstore.
Yeah.
What was his profession?
Pharmacy.
At the time, were you working?
No, I was home. I was a housewife for 19 years, raising children.
And you moved into Pontchartrain Park in 1969.
June of 1969.
Was Dr. Carter the only person and your in-laws the only people you knew in Pontchartrain Park at the time?
Oh no, we knew other people, but in that particular square, Dr. Carter was the only one we knew.
Now, let's travel back in time, even before you met your husband in 1956. In 1954, the Urban League, which was one of the organizations responsible for Pontchartrain Park's existence, developed a housing questionnaire and survey. Are you familiar with that?
No. I was in high school.
Are you familiar with the Stearns and the work that Rosa Keller
No.
did to bring Pontchartrain Park to fruition? Are you familiar with Delashup's Morrison?
He was the mayor.
That was the mayor during the time that Pontchartrain Park was created. Delashup Morrison was a staunch segregationist, and so he supported the creation of Pontchartrain Park to keep black people separate from whites. Were you okay with that concept when you moved into an all-black community?
Well, at that time, it was clear integration was there, and we liked it, the community, yeah. So it was no problem for us.
Now, let's talk about the process of obtaining your home again. You moved into what in 1969 was a new section of Pontchartrain Park.
Right. The last section to have housing being sold.
And it was initially purchased by the Archdiocese, as you stated, in order to put a black Catholic church there.
Right.
But by the time you moved in, of course, St. Gabriel had been fully integrated.
Right.
What kinds of paperwork did you and Mr. Henry had to sign?
In regard of moving out there?
Purchasing your home.
Just signing a lease. We bought it from Rudy Barnes and Teddy Marchand. That's all we did. Then we had our contractors.
So you, without the VA bill, you went through the regular home purchasing process.
Right. And my husband handled all of that. That money deal, that wasn't mine. It was his.
Had you heard, we know that you had heard some positive things from Dr. Carter, your in-laws, and others. Had you heard any negative stories about Pontchartrain Park?
Nothing other than it was all black. Was all black.
Yeah. And when you moved in, what was your immediate reaction? Were you pleased, excited?
Oh, very much. Have our home. The kids had it. Then they were still in the process of building more homes. And on both sides of us, our lot was just in the middle, and nothing was on each side. So they were building homes, still building on that square. And we were just happy to have your own home and space for the kids, because I had 4 by that time.
So you had 4 children when you moved into Pontchartrain Park.
3 boys and 1 girl. She died 2 years after, but that's all right.
I remember.
You remember?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What was your floor plan? You said that you had a specially designed home.
Yeah.
What was the floor plan like?
It's 2 stories, and we had 4 bedrooms upstairs. Then downstairs we had living room, dining room, den, kitchen, washroom, garage, double garage.
And it was how many square feet?
3,082 square feet. 3,082 square feet, yeah.
What was it like when you first moved into the park? We know that they were just building houses in your section. Most of the other part of the park was well developed. And it was after Hurricane Betsy, so many of the homes had been remodeled.
Yeah,
but what was
the added on?
That's right. What was the social events like?
My neighbors across the street, they were old established, the Perkins and the Bradfords and all that. They welcomed all of the Eli's. They welcomed us all, and by having kids, they had kids as well, so they played. And then from one thing to another, you know, we mixed with the neighborhood, and I was home all day, so I was a home mama. So a lot of kids were always ended up at my house, since I had a pool table in the den and basketball goal in the yard, so it was always the house of shock.
So there were many families already established around the park, and
Oh yeah,
they welcomed you
across the street. That square was new, but the people around that square was all old.
Now, you had, as you stated, in-laws, Mrs. Yolanda Henry and her family. Did they provide any assistance in your coming into the neighborhood? And
No, we knew. My husband was in a club, and then him, by being a pharmacist, he knew a lot of people, so all around. And Xavierites, we had people from everywhere.
what, was your husband a member of the Vikings?
Vikings, the Studs. What else it was? Something else. One of them clubs, all them clubs. Professional clubs.
Yes,
too, yeah.
yes. Were there many people in the neighborhood, part and parcel of those clubs?
No. I know my brother, my brother-in-law and then Ed Adams, they were one that was in the Vikings. I don't know who else was out there.
In fact, your brother-in-law,
Clarence
Henry, and Mr. Adams lived on Prentice Avenue.
Right. They were over there a long time.
Do you remember any great stories or legends about the neighborhood during the time that you lived in the neighborhood?
Legends? Only thing, Pontchartrain, the park, when we established the kids, with all the kids playing, we brought them out there for Mac Knox. He was the coach. That was a legend by itself. Yeah. And by being home every day, I was out there with him every day, and I was help coach too.
Yeah.
So I was with Mac and all of the, and all the other mothers from around the park. So we had a good time.
What about some of the legends, the stories? For example, do you remember anything about the lady in white?
No, never heard about that. I did remember that they used to say about that little canal was the dividing line.
The ditch.
Yeah, the ditch.
Yeah,
And my nephews and them would say how they would cross over that line, and how the white people would beat them up or run them or something. That's all. But my children never experienced it.
Now, did your children, did they go to St. Gabriel?
Only one, Ruston, the youngest one. And my daughter was supposed to go the year she died, but she was registered there, but she never attended. But they finished Ruston came, I think, over in 4th or 5th. After Troy and Sterling finished from St. David, then I transferred Ruston and Monica to St. Gabriel, so I didn't have to bring them back and forth.
Eventually, I would say in the 70s, didn't you become the principal of St. Gabriel?
No, I was a teacher.
Teacher at St. Gabriel.
I taught over there.
Yeah, it was long after I had left, I remember. Yeah.
It was only for 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, but I could remember you being there.
Taught 4th grade.
Now, were there any other stories about Gentilly Woods and experiences like at the front? And of course, remember the front was where all of the stores were.
Yeah.
Were there any experiences that you had as an adult shopping at the front?
No, I had, I used to bring my kids back and forth to school, and every evening we stopped at Sears. In fact, I'd stop so often people thought I worked there, and fill up with gas because I had to bring the kids after school football, basketball, whatever practice. I had the whole station wagon full of them. And I'd fill up with gas, look like every other day. So the man asked me, what's your worker's number? I told him I didn't work here. I just used gas like much. Anyway, we would commute back and forth.
Now, you suggested that your sons played on the park.
Mm-hmm.
What sports did they play again?
All of them.
All of the sports.
All of them.
And of course, that was one of the advantages of having children in Pontchartrain Park,
Right.
the playground. Were there any other advantages of rearing your children in Pontchartrain Park?
Their neighbors, their friends, they met friends, they met everybody, so out here.
Are
And
there-
I met all of the parents going, and I found out all the streets in the park by bringing children home, because didn't know where everything was, but I found out where all them little curves and corners were. And the kids would tell me, I live right there, Miss Henry, bring me here. Okay, so I was the mother transporter.
Yeah. Were there any disadvantages of rearing your children in Pontchartrain Park?
I don't think so. If it did, it didn't show to me.
Were you a part of the Pontchartrain Park Booster Club?
Definitely.
What was your role through the years?
I was the secretary, I think, for years, and kept the roll for all the sports attendants.
What about being a member of the Pontchartrain Park Association and then eventually Pontilli?
I was a member of that for a while. When it became Pontilli, my kids were grown, and it was not the same. So I would go every now and then, but I wasn't active like I was when they were all younger.
As a part of the Pontchartrain Park Association, do you remember what your role was, any of your activities?
Yeah, coach, concession, transporter, uniforms, you name it, I did it out there with the kids. All of it.
Now, St. Gabriel Church, which was in Gentilly Woods, were you a member of St. Gabriel Church?
Yeah, we became members of the St. Gabriel Church.
Before St. Gabriel,
St. David.
And were you satisfied with the services you received at St. Gabriel?
Yeah.
Are you still there?
Yes. And I'm still a Eucharistic minister in the church.
Now, you were not in Pontchartrain Park during Hurricane Betsy. You
No.
were still in the lower
We were
Ninth
in the
Ward.
Lower Ninth Ward.
When in the lower Ninth Ward, we know, just like with Hurricane Katrina, the lower Ninth Ward was devastated.
Right.
Did you and Mr. Henry sustain any serious damage at your home in the lower
Oh
Ninth?
yeah, it was wiped out. You know, we had to rebuild inside. It was brick, but we had to rebuild, tear out all the walls and rebuild. We stayed by my mama uptown in the 7th Ward.
So after you rebuilt that home in the lower 9, how long was it before you moved to Pontchartrain Park?
That was in 50. Hurricane Betsy was 40.
65.
65. So we built in 69. We started building 68. Yeah, we moved 69.
Before Hurricane Katrina, did Pontchartrain Park, in your eyes, begin to change demographically? Were people moving out?
No, not in my area. They were established a lot of, like, next door to me when Dave Bartholomew moved next to me. And on the other side, they had another young couple family. So Dave is still here. He's 100, but he's hanging in there now.
And he's still in the
Still
neighborhood.
right next door. Yeah.
You also had a New Orleans saint who
Yeah,
lived
Richard
near you,
Neal.
Richard Neal.
Which I christened him and his wife and all his children. My husband and I christened when they became Catholics. So, he died in 83.
Suddenly in a hotel room
Yeah,
with a
in,
massive coronary.
Somewhere away from here, I forgot where it was. But,
He had finished his career with the New York
yeah,
Jets.
and he was with the Saints. He was working for Popeyes then, I think.
Hurricane Katrina. Of course, Hurricane Katrina impacted upon the city in 2005. Did it impact upon your family and home?
My husband and I, and at the time, we were the only one there, and it wiped out the bottom level, and we left. Troy, my second boy, they came and got us right before that Saturday, and we left and we went to Houston by his sister-in-law and them. And when we came back, well, the whole first floor was up to 5 feet up the first floor. So we tore it all out. My husband had somebody came, they took everything out. All the walls and all that, and bleached it and whatever they had to do, and got it ready. And we had a handyman that used to work with him down at the keep everything at the drugstore. He moved to Lafayette, but we were able to get him back here, and because contractors was just that was just out the box. So he was able to do everything. So in March, that was in September, we moved back here. We got moved back to New Orleans in November, and we moved back in my house in March because we were the only ones in Pontchartrain Park then. And in order to get lights for them to work in the house, Troy, my son, called the president of energy, and he was able to get a pole and a light. And once my neighbors found out we were back, y'all back? So we coming back. So they start coming back, and Dave and them moved back, and a whole lot of them, all of them came back. So we were back to our neighborhood. So many of them didn't come back. So many houses were gone.
So your block, which is
4740 Olden Street.
So your block, the new Olden,
Yeah, right.
is
Between Congress and Desire Drive.
Yeah. So it's practically all back.
On my side.
Yes.
The other side, the old homes, no. More empty lots. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 empty lots still there. But I understand they just auctioned them and sold them or something. But anyway, the other homes, they moved back. People moved back, and they since have moved out, but they're there.
And of course, needless to say, before Hurricane Katrina, you all were still in your home.
Oh, yeah.
A number of people were moving out of Pontchartrain Park prior to that. So what made you stay?
Before Katrina?
Yes.
Knowing that it was coming?
No,
Oh,
no.
just
actually,
before?
before the storm, years before the storm,
Oh,
some people were.
that was
were
home. I mean, no sense. We built that home. That was home. That's still home.
And you were happy to have stayed in the park.
Oh, yeah. Still happy. Still happy.
After after Hurricane Katrina, around Pontchartrain Park, outside of your neighborhood, have you noticed a change in certain areas?
Oh, yeah. Gentilly Woods have changed completely. It's integrated almost totally And the homes that, well, they renovated a lot of the homes and everything in all over the Pontchartrain and in Gentilly Woods. It has changed tremendously.
So are those changes for the better?
Seems so. It seems as though they're keeping up the property. And we finally got a street paved, Congress Drive, that looked like Rocky Hill before. But so we still working on trying to get the side streets paved. But
Are you now, after Katrina, are you now a part of the Pontelli Association?
every now and then I go, but it interferes with my casino on that day.
So now, what are your leisure time activities?
Casino. The casino, playing cards. That's it.
Yeah.
Church. Whatever I want to do now.
And post-Hurricane Katrina, are you aware of Wendell Pierce's post-Katrina efforts to provide people with new homes in Pontchartrain
He
Park?
and my son went together with it. Troy.
Wendell and
Troy
Troy Henry, that's right.
That's right.
What do you think of the new home construction?
Oh, I thought they had a good idea with those things. And in fact, I was telling a whole lot of people in there, but so many things, red tape, I don't know what actually happened with it.
How many homes were actually constructed?
I have no idea.
Nearing 5, I think.
I don't
if
know.
not more.
I don't know.
So, to your knowledge, it was political wranglings and administrative red tape that thwarted the activity.
A government mess, okay. And you know, I was the last to know. I was mama, so they tell me after everything's over. So I didn't know what people come ask me. I said, well, I don't know. I can just ask my son. But those things went about, and last I heard, they don't have any affiliation with it anymore. I don't know. Like I said, they don't tell mama nothing, you know. For my, you don't have to worry about that, as usual.
Now, of course, you have 3 children now. All 3 are college graduates, very successful professional men. One ran for mayor. Twice. Or the other, Rustin, actually runs the pharmacy now.
He has two, one on the west, one on the east bank, one on the west bank, and in the process of opening 2 more, I think. That one where he has the marijuana contract for the city, and he's waiting on that to come, and I think that's waiting on that to open. And I think he has another one he's getting ready to open up in one of Troy's gas stations up on Chapatula Street. Like I say, I'm the last to know.
In any small or large measure, do you attribute their success to having grown up in Pontchartrain Park?
Right, a whole lot.
And
the influence, they were, you know, the influence of people and the neighbors and the park, their friends, the school. So they knew better. It was a big milestone for them.
And are you still friends with anyone from the earlier years of Pontchartrain Park history?
Oh yeah, those who left.
Yeah.
We got a few of us left.
Yeah. What were your most memorable moments in Pontchartrain Park?
The time I jumped the fence, get to my son on the field. He got hurt playing football.
Troy?
Yeah, Troy. And they said, oh, number 72. By the time he said, I said, what? I was gone. I beat the coach to him. Max said, I got him, Elvira, I got him. I said, okay.
And was he seriously injured?
No. He was just knocked down, knocked out, whatever. But it was all right. They enjoyed it. And those kids are lifelong friends. It's amazing. They meet everywhere, in all kind of ways.
Now, Mr. Henry, is he deceased now?
Yeah, It'll be 3 years, July 12th.
Now, is there anything else you wanted to talk about or add that we didn't address?
Living out here has been very good and feels safe. The safety, you know, your neighbor, I come and go.
Pick me up.
They keep an eye on me. I keep an eye on them, each person. So we pretty much tightly knit. Even the new people that have come in since Katrina, they know.
Now, you're no longer an empty nester.
Oh no, I got my son and his wife and his son. They moved back from Washington, D.C., so they're here. Thank goodness. I told them the house is theirs. I don't need it.
How long, it occurs to me we didn't actually determine this, how long have you lived in Pontchartrain Park?
Since 69?
Since 1969.
How many years that is? I don't know. It's a 69. I don't know. How long that is?
Was that 50? That's 50.
50 years?
Yeah.
That's right. This is 1919. Yeah,
That's right. 50
true.
years.
50
Yeah.
years.
Of course, things have changed over the years.
Mm-hmm.
What do you miss, if anything at all, about the way it used to be?
Nothing. Because we moved along with the time, and the kids moved along. Now they come back, they're willing to come back. Like little Sterling came back home, he's willing to.
As well as Troy, redeveloping
Troy
homes.
came back too. He figured there was no other school for his son to go to but St. Aug, so he moved back home. And Rustin always was here, but those two came back home.
And of course, your sons are graduates of St. Augustine.
St. Augustine, Troy, Stanford, and Carnegie Mellon, Little Sterling, St. Augustine, and Howard, and Troy, St. Augustine, and Xavier.
Rustin, St. Augustine.
Rustin, yeah, I said Troy. No, Troy was all there. Yeah, they're doing all right.
No. And once more, just one last opportunity, Miss Henry. Do you have anything else to add?
Mm-hmm. It was good to see that it became a historical factor, you know, in this kind of community.
It's a very good question. A very good point that you've made. In August, Pontchartrain Park will be evaluated, and it will be determined whether or not Pontchartrain Park will receive a national, a notice on the National Registry.
I thought it had already been.
It will be in August.
Okay.
What do you
good.
think about that?
Fantastic. And I hope they put something out in reference to Greenup and all of them. You know, he was one of the stalwarts of it.
There is also an elders center in the park.
Mm-hmm. My husband used to go there. No, I didn't go.
Why didn't you?
I was too busy at the casino. They play cards with things, I don't know, whatever, bridge, or they're too sophisticated, I told them.
All right, so are you successful at the casino?
Up and down, up and down. I play poker at the table and the slot machine, so.
Yeah.
Then every Monday I got a group that comes by me. On Monday we play from 10 in the morning till 4:30 in the evening poker.
Oh.
And I'm 82 and they call me teenagers, so you know how old they are, okay? So we have been doing that for years. I was young when I started with them. But it's been a good thing.
Yeah. And do you all play for money?
Oh, yeah, $15, that's all. Nothing more.
Excellent.
Uh-huh.
Well, Mrs. Henry, I certainly appreciate you coming out and participating in the Pontchartrain Park Pioneers project.
Well, I wasn't a pioneer, but I was out here after that to start I see all those kids coming when they had the dedication for Mr. Mack. All them little children, I remember. Oh my God, they're big, huge men and all that. Yeah, Miss Henry. And they, everywhere I go, I meet them. And they remember. Well, I brought them enough home.
Yeah.
And they were all in my house. The teams all stood all at my house. Because each one of them had their own set. Each boy. That's it.
Well, once again, we appreciate you participating.
I'm happy to be a part of it.
And your contribution is certainly dynamic. And we will be in contact with you in the very near future.
Okay.
We are collecting these stories. We are going to digitize them and file them.
Okay.
And eventually we will be transcribing them.
Very good.
And making them available to the public.
Oh, modern technology, y'all just doing everything. It's wonderful. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mrs. Henry. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
This has been a presentation of the Center for African and African American Studies at Southern University at New Orleans and the following sponsors: the National Park Service, the United States Department of the Interior through the Louisiana Department of Culture, Recreation, and Tourism, the Louisiana Office of Cultural Development, and the Division of Historic Preservation.